Mhm.
I'm going to refrain from the suit jacket because it's very hot in here today. Jamie, are you good?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, great. At this time, we'll call our January 25th, 2022 work session to order. Jamie, could you please read the sunshine statement?
Be advised that proper notice has been given by the Township Council in accordance with the Sunshine Law in the following manner. Notice advertised in the Burlington County Times and Camden Courier Post on January 12th, 2022, and posted on the bulletin board on the same date. Mr. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Jenny,
Here.
Ms. Pareo,
Here.
Mr. Lyon,
Here.
Mr. Burrell.
Here. Thank you, Jamie. First up, we have Resolution 2022-27, the appointment of Joseph. Gary, how do you pronounce his last name? You're muted.
You're muted.
I just don't want to butcher it. Bellany,
Sorry, Alina,
Alina,
Alina.
Alina as an interim business administrator. Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion. I'll second.
Jamie, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Jenny,
Aye.
Ms. Pareo,
Aye.
Mr. Lyon,
Aye.
Mr. Burrell.
Aye, aye, and congratulations, Joseph. I don't know if you're on the call with us or not, but I apologize
I'm
for
gonna-
butchering your name, but
It's okay to promote him to a panelist now.
yes, please.
Yes. We'll be able to call him Joe, I hope, because I've been calling him Joe in anticipation of tonight's meeting.
Great.
Here he is.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you.
Good evening. You can hear us?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
Great.
Great. Next up, we have Resolution 2022-28, authorizing the mayor to execute the 2022 to 2026 recycling and solid waste service agreement between the Township of Delran and the Burlington County Board of County Commissioners. I'll entertain a motion.
So move, Tom Lyon.
I'll second.
All right. Jamie, could you call the roll, please?
I'm sorry, who second? Marlo?
We get
Yes,
Marlo
please.
second.
Okay. Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Jenny,
Aye.
Ms. Pareo,
Aye.
Mr. Lyon,
Aye.
Mr. Burrell.
Aye. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next up is Resolution 2022-29. This is authorizing 2022-2024 shared service agreement for snow removal and salting between the Burlington County Board of County Commissioners and the Township of Delran. I'll entertain a motion.
So
Motion.
move, Tom Lyon.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
Tom will take the motion. Lynn, can you second, please?
Second.
Jamie, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Jenny,
Aye.
Ms. Pareo,
Aye.
Mr. Lyon,
Aye.
Mr. Burrell.
Aye. Next up, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next up is Resolution 2022-30, refunding various road opening permit deposits. Can we get a motion in a second?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Jamie, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Jenny,
Aye.
Ms. Pareo,
Aye.
Mr. Lyon,
Aye.
Mr. Burrell.
Aye. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next up, we have our motion. This is a motion granting a mercantile license to Asian Auto and the Grocery Outlet. And the address is therein on our agenda. Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion. Lynn. I'll second.
Second. Jamie, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Jenny,
Aye.
Ms. Pareo,
Aye.
Mr. Lyon,
Aye.
Mr. Burrell.
Aye, the ayes have it. The motion carries. And down to our work session. It's fairly short tonight. There was just likely would have canceled the meeting, but we had to get in some important resolutions. So we're here. So first up, we have first and only thing for the work session agenda is the Delran Welcome Committee, which was I believe part of the discussion from the Communications Committee, and the mayor has been working to make this happen. So let me just pull that up. There was a memo that was provided on this. Gary, do you want to expand upon anything that's written here in the memo that council received?
Yeah, thanks, Council President. So the committee basically it's, self-described, but it would be a lot more than just, sugar bread or salt bread and wine. It would be, all the information about the township, about phone numbers, about trash and recycling and, parks and recs available, school information, the various organizations, the various events that we have, some quick tips about construction, as a lot of people come in and, do some quick renovations, about permits needed and not needed. Basically promoting all the stuff that would happen. I think some of the things that that we've looked to that I don't think were done in the past is that we'd also provide these information packets to realtors. I met with the Nexus legislative meeting. They're an organization that helps realtors work within and have them have a packet so that when they're selling a house in Delran, they have information and it would say, hey, boy, the Delran really is proactive in welcoming their residents. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. So
Yeah.
just as a matter of, I'm not sure of the process at this point. But there would be a vast array of people from various organizations and certainly anyone that council wanted to include.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. And I think we've talked about in earlier discussions about it was we can even leverage the resources with perhaps the school district and their graphic
Yep.
design class and can prepare folders and things like that. There may be some students who are really proficient at that can help us do that. I think one of the issues we did come in when we started conceptualizing this early on was the question is, how do you find out who moved into town? Because
Right.
by the time it gets to Jamie's office or the tax office or whoever it may be, right, there's normally a pretty substantial delay in that, right? And by that
Right.
time, the ship has sort of sailed in
Mhm.
terms of, hey, you're welcoming me 6 months after I've been here. I kind of figured it out. But I think that's why the memo references relying on some realtors because they have access to information rapidly. Lynn, may probably familiar with that more than anybody else, right?
Yeah, they could communicate with us, or there are places, websites where we could actually find out which houses were sold in the township every day for that matter.
And
Yep.
frankly, and when they were closing, and that's why we definitely wanted to include a representative that's a realtor. They have access to that. We don't necessarily, as non-realtors, have that, but to be able to, greet the folks the day they move in or the day after closing and say, hey, here's what's happening. Here's some things. Certainly, some of the ideas that were floated and our communications person is interested in doing is reaching out to businesses and providing a menu or a coupon or something that would encourage them to start using the local restaurants or the local grocery stores or really any of the businesses located in town.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a train of thought, but I lost it. So it's been a long day. Are there any other thoughts from members of council?
Yeah, just one quick one. I was wondering, could we also have that same information available for, at leasing offices? Because, there are several, folks that do rent in town as well. So anytime someone moves in, it might be nice to have as well when they're renting an apartment or a home.
Well, from real estate, they can rentals, leasing, as long as it's done on using an agent, they'll have a record of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, again, I'm having Tyler's problem. I just lost my train of thought, but that information would also be, the goal is to have a new residence button on the website so that they can get, in essence, a digital version of this packet in case they misplace that. And that would also, frankly, help people that were thinking about moving to Delran, and they typically might go to the website and see this new residence thing and click on that and say, geez, it's a pretty welcoming town. And that obviously is the goal, is that people understand what Delran's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember where I was at. One, I wanted to say digital copy would be fantastic. And I think the mayor and I, it may have been probably 3 years ago, we tried to implement this by us knocking on some residents' doors. And we did that a couple times with some of the ward council folks at that time, but it was just so hard for us to figure out who was coming and going. But we got pretty positive, feedback from that. They were like, we were one of the first people that reached out and just glad to know that you're there. We just gave them their business card. So if there's also that sort of element that, they can get that packet and maybe perhaps their ward council person can stop by, and just say hello. I think that means something, to them as well.
Absolutely.
So
And I'm sorry. Tony,
go ahead,
go ahead.
Virginia.
No, I just wanted to add, there's also going to be multi-languages on there, correct? Because we do have a lot of Portuguese speaking individuals that move to town or Turkish speaking individuals. So,
We will, we will do the best we can with that packet, but it will be available on the website, and we'll try to have one of those sheets, if you've seen them at some of the pharmacies, where you point to your language, and you can do that right on our website. And I'm pretty sure, Tyler, we have a number of language options to translate the website, I believe, on the website already. Right?
Yes. Yeah, but Virginia is absolutely right. The school district, we talked about that in the communications committee. They have some service that they use that takes their letters and regurgitates them in the appropriate languages and actually translate them into spoken language, not just a computer generated thing. So I think that would make some sort of sense as well. We know what populations are here as well.
thank you.
Good point, Virginia. So I think this is a no-brainer in terms of, do we want to, there's some things on here, one realtor, one township employee. Do you have people propose for this, or do you want to spend the next week before our council, we can do this at the public and actually make the appointment? Ultimately, the standing, council is the only body that has the authority to create an official committee. So we're more than happy to do that. Do you just want to get us some names?
Yeah.
And then we can do it at our next meeting. I don't want
That'd
to
be-
put you on the spot now, but
Yeah, that'd be great. And certainly if council has any suggestions for people that are not included or organizations, we'd be, that the communicate, this group, it's got a lot of work in that there's going to be a lot of opportunity to be engaged. And in that case, we probably want, a bunch of highly proactive people that are interested and will do it, show up, and, the more representatives, the better. So if you have any suggestions, we'd love to have.
yeah, absolutely. If we can get those to Gary, that'll be great. And then, we'll talk and get that on the next meeting. But there's definitely a substantial amount of work that has to go into it. You need even to get to the packet stage, right? You got to draft, figure out the data you want to put in, and then draft it and polish it and make it look pretty. So this is not a weekend project by any means. So,
Correct.
okay. Any other thoughts from members of council? I don't have any either. So that's good. So Gary, you just get us Mayor, just get us that information and we'll
Get
put it
you a
on our
list.
public meeting. Jamie, if you could just make a note, appointing a standing committee. Okay. All right. That includes the items in the work session besides our executive. So with that, we'll go to reports. First up is Jamie Yeager as our township clerk. Jamie.
I have no report. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Next up is our mayor, Mayor Ketchum. Mayor.
Thank you. Thanks, Council President. First, I'd like to congratulate Joe Bellina on being appointed as the interim administrator, and also like to thank Government Strategies, the organization that we've engaged to assist in our search for a permanent replacement for Jeff Hatcher as the administrator. We're grateful for the services they provide, especially as we make our way through the budget process. That's a pretty daunting task. And secondly, something a little more serious. Last week, I became aware of a new blog, which seems to be focusing its attention on one person. And while I fundamentally disagree with the narrative that's on the first blog, the manipulation of facts during council meetings these past months has been something that we're all dealing with. But I want to state here and now that I do not condone this new blog's nonsense in any way. I don't know the motivation behind the person that's doing this, but we will not be drawn into some sort of a blog war or childish nonsense with that. This behavior only further distracts from the work that we have to do here in the township. And frankly, I'm out of patience. This blog, if it was created by a Delran resident, you're not helping. please, if it was created from someone who has a personal issue with the subject of the blog, please take it out of town. We don't want it here. This is not who we are. This is not what we do. This is not what Delran is about. Please, please. Finally, I'd like to update the residents that I've recently submitted a letter discussing that I discussed prior with the local finance board at the DCA for their review. I'm still also waiting for a response from the comptroller's office regarding the process with the audit that I requested. And the council president, that's my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Next up, we have from our solicitor's office, Sal Siciliano. Sal?
Yep. Good evening, everyone. No report.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sal. Next up, our engineer is not with us today for this work session, right, Jamie? He's not online. I think so. Yep. I do know Jim is preparing his road list for members of council and the mayor to discuss, so that should be coming in short order as well. Next up, we have reports from members of council. First up, Councilwoman Virginia Parejo. Councilwoman?
Yes, I want to congratulate and welcome Joe. And also several residents ask when the work on Chester Avenue will be completed. From what PSC&G is saying, worst case, weather permitting, it should be done in approximately 3 weeks, and the final restoration will be done in the summer. And I want to thank Jim for getting back to us so quickly with that information. I greatly appreciate it. And that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mayor, can you have Wendy put something to that effect about that road on the Facebook page and the website? I know I did see Jim's email about that, but
Yep.
it's
we'll
always
do a-
frustrating when we have to wait for warmer weather in order to, and for the things to sink, the holes to sink in order to do it, but sort of the nature of the beast. So if we could just educate folks and get that out.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great, thank you. And next up, we have Councilman Marlo Smith. Councilman, anything for us tonight?
Yeah, just a couple quick things. First of all, welcome to Joe as well. Look forward to working with you. We got a lot of work to do here in this township, so definitely happy to have you on board. Secondly, just wanted to make mention of the fact that for folks that are interested in getting COVID testing at home, that is available. You can either go on the website or you can actually, there's a 1-800 number that you can call to get testing. Lastly, I believe that there also will be the N95 masks, the better form-fitting masks that will be available at retailers. I believe that CVS and Walgreens will be two of the retailers that will have those for free. There's a limited number, I think it's 3 masks per person that will be able to get those. I haven't actually had a chance to go to either CVS or Walgreens today, but I do believe that they will be coming in stock very soon. So just wanted to make mention of that, and that's end of report.
Great, thanks, Councilman. Next up, we have Councilman Lynn Jenny. Councilman?
Thank you, Council President. I'd just like to welcome Mr. Belina to Delran Township. We look forward to working with you, and your experience looks just exactly what we need. So welcome. We look forward to having you. And that's my report.
Thanks, Councilman. Next up, we have Mr. Vice President Tom Lyon. Mr. Vice President?
Yeah, thank you, Council President. Welcome, Joe. I'm not going to congratulate you because you're walking into budget season, but we look forward to working with you, and hopefully everything works out great. I know it will. You do have a vast amount of experience, and I've worked with other administrators that were in on a temporary basis in other towns, and had a lot of positive experiences. So we're excited to have you on board, and welcome. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. For my report, I do want to echo comment the mayor made about this other blog that's came to my attention last week. I do not support the blog either. I think it's completely inappropriate, and it's time that we act as adults. It's funny how adults can't act like adults, and children are left to act like adults. It's just, I won't get into it, but it's time adults start to act like adults, and as a global problem. But I also want to congratulate Joe for joining us. As Mr. Vice President said, welcome to budget season. We're going to be relying on you to get us through that. So, but we're glad to have you here, and look forward to meeting and talking as through your tenure here. And finally, it is with a heavy heart and a more sad note that we do mourn the loss of Nick Stone and Avery Young, both two students that I went to high school with. It's been a challenging month here in Delran for sure to lose total, I think, 3 young men in such a short amount of time. So thoughts and prayers are with the community and their family and friends through this time. And with that concludes our reports. We'll have public comment. So taking a motion to open the floor to public comment.
Motion, Lynn?
I'll second.
And Marlo second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We are in public comment. So just some ground rules. First, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand on Zoom and you will be recognized at that time. You'll be recognized. You'll state your name and address for the record. All comments should be made to the council, addressed to the council. An individual speaker is allotted 5 minutes of time to use that time as they see fit. And all statements are a part of the public record. That's both written and recorded, so they cannot be redacted or retracted after the fact. So with that, let's see whose hand is raised. And Jamie, I'll ask you to unmute Matt first, please. Hey, Matt, can you hear us?
I can. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Jamie.
Great. No problem. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I do have a few questions. First set of questions is around the welcoming committee. It was mentioned that the welcoming committee would present the day of closing or perhaps the day after. So that sounds like in person. Is that accurate?
If it's possible to do, the volunteers can handle that with their schedule. We'd like to do that as soon as they get to town.
Okay.
Sometimes that first day, you get there and you go, geez, where can I get a pizza in Delran? And it would certainly be helpful if all that information was available.
Yeah, it will be helpful, but that doesn't have anything to do with my question. But I think you answered my next 2 questions. So they're going to be volunteers rather than municipal township employees?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. My next question is about, I think it was mentioned government strategies has been engaged to find a solicitor. Is that right?
No.
Government Strategies has been retained for 2 portions. They are a firm in New Jersey that provides temporary administrators to replace Jeff Hatcher. They're doing 2 things. One, they're providing a temporary employee to work with us to get us through what we need to get through. And second, they also have an element of recruiting. So they're going to go out and work and recruit somebody that fits Delran Township's needs, rather than us just putting an ad on Facebook and the township saying, hey, we need an administrator. They're going to go out and check through their Rolodex, work with people they have, and hopefully find us an administrator, a full-time administrator.
Right. I meant to say administrator, not solicitor. So thank you for that clarification. But it does actually bring my question back into play. It means that government strategies has been engaged to find a permanent administrator going forward, rather than us having the ability or talent to recruit on our own. I don't know why we would need to have an added expense to go outside of the township instead of recruiting on our own. But
yeah, I'll defer to the mayor and part of this, but we did advertise early on when Jeff was here. We put ads out into different municipal groups, the League of Municipalities. I believe the township interviewed 3 candidates, and those candidates were either asking too much money or were not qualified for the position, right? So the goal was not to expend money to do this, to hunt for anybody. We got to the situation where we can't just fill the seat with somebody who wants way too much money or someone who's not qualified, right? So we went with a temporary service, which is frequently used in the state. This is a common occurrence, and we're going to rely on their expertise to help us find somebody to replace full-time.
Okay, so you did try to
Yeah.
Recruit some people, but now we need some additional help to find the right person.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Got it. Thank you. And then finally, the blog you guys are talking about, and when I say guys, I mean the mayor and council president. You haven't mentioned the blog name, so I don't know how you expect people to not publicize it or visit it when we don't know what the name is. And I really have an issue with people in elected office or government officials trying to silence someone out there on the web talking about whatever it is this blog is talking about. So I want that to be noted or documented that I have an issue with government trying to silence whomever this is. And then could you give us the blog name that you have an issue with?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, Matt, the blog is, I don't have it off the top of my head. It's Sunshine.
Something.
It's Sunshine Disinfects, something to that extent. And in particular, the problem is this blog makes allegations that certain people faked diseases, that fake cancer. And I think that's inappropriate to call someone's illness into question. I don't, people have a free speech to say whatever they want, but that doesn't mean we all have to agree with it. I don't think anyone should question anybody's mental status or conditions that they had. I think that's completely inappropriate. So that's all that I'm trying to say.
What was the point of mentioning it in this work session then, if the name of the blog wasn't going to be mentioned, or what these issues that you have are taken into account?
Can I jump in here, Council President?
Yeah, go ahead. There's 10 seconds remaining, so.
Okay, so very quickly, I wasn't really speaking to anyone, I don't know who I'm speaking to, whoever's writing that blog. I'm just saying this blog was against an individual, not the township, not frankly anybody that lives in the township, but it was just something that I just felt like it was not helping the dialogue and the interaction that we're trying to have. I'm not going to promote that blog because I don't agree with what it's saying. I'm just saying that I don't like what they're trying to do. If they're trying to help, they're not. And if they're trying to get us engaged with them, we don't want any parts of it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I get that. And I understand. And that's the issue that I have, but that concludes my questions. And I thank you for the time.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Next up, Jamie, I believe, is Miss Littleton, Barbara Littleton. You can unmute her, please. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
This is Barbara Littleton. I don't want to state my specific address because I have had people come up to my house, but I do live in Delran. I'm going to, last work session, my time limit got exceeded, not necessarily for my questions and comments, but because council was answering my questions and comments. And although I definitely want to hear the council's answers, I definitely want to be able to get some more questions out in my 5 minutes. So I'm going to rattle off my whole list of questions. If you need me to repeat them later because you want to comment on them, please ask me to reiterate them and I will be glad to do so. But I definitely want to get my 5 minutes worth of time in doing this. So one of the things I want to talk about is the mayor, the communications director has publicly put out there that they're all for transparency. And to me, that is the most important thing for the council. So I wanted to define transparency. And transparency is government's obligation to share information with citizens that is needed to make informed decisions and hold officials accountable for the conduct of the people's business. So a lot of the information that we've been getting through the Oprah requests or however we're asking for information through the council meetings, I really don't feel that as much as the mayor and the direct communications director has talked about transparency, that we're really getting to transparency. So me personally, I really wish that if you're not going to be transparent, please don't promote that you're trying to be transparent. With that, I have a question on, was a investigation completed by the council after they made the settlement with Dunphy for the $300,000? And I ask that question because as far as we can tell, that $300,000 came out of our taxpayer money. And I really have a problem with this, especially knowing that 4 landscape companies operating in A1 zones without permits or use variances were allowed to operate without the zoning board saying anything to them. 17 days after Dunphy was denied his use variance from the zoning board, another landscaper in an A1 zone was able to operate and get a use variance to operate in an A1 zone. And we could talk about that they were in different areas, whatever. It's all of Delran. Everybody should be treated the same way. Zoning board should be treating everyone exactly the same way. And if you're going to ask one person to do it, then you should be asking everyone to do it the same. Otherwise, it's not what the mayor has identified as the zoning board in his public comments, that it's they're ethical and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're making judgment calls spur of the moment and really not. And these are not allegations. These are educated assessments from the factual information that we have available to us.
You got 1 minute remaining.
Thank you. So after Dunphy's case went to the Supreme Court and he won his use variance, he submitted to the township that he was going to apply, he was going to submit a tort claim against the township. The township decided to go ahead and pay that tort, or pay a settlement so that it wouldn't go to court. $300,000, 34,000 plus in attorney's fees just for that case. That's $300 and something thousand for that case. But the deductible, insurance deductible, Tyler, you said that you guys made this analysis and the deductible was just so high that it was in the best interest of the public to pay this outside of a court case. However, if it went to court, the insurance company would have paid and we, the taxpayers, would only be paying $75,000. So I really have an issue with that and the people.
You got about 5 minutes.
So all of this comes back to the transparency. And I don't see transparency from the council. And I really would like some of those questions answered.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Littleton.
Thank you.
Jamie, you can mute. With respect to the Dunphy's litigation, I mean, it's been asked and answered in terms of there's read a lengthy statement into the record about it. Part of the settlement process was, listen, it was a business decision in what we made, right? The reason it was brought to our attention, there was going to be a lawsuit that was filed. We sat in settlement negotiations with their attorney. We knew the claims that were going to come if they sued us. They spoke to Sal about that in length. And Sal prepared a memo. Our solicitor's office prepared a memo about the potential exposure financially, right? And certain claims are covered by the insurance company and certain claims aren't covered by the insurance company, right? And certain people need different lawyers and the insurance doesn't cover everything, right? So there's a ton of exposure that's potentially there and liability, right? So that is why there was a settlement that was made. It was purely a business decision that was made. And ultimately to stop the bleeding. And at the end of the day, it was the insurance did kick in. It was a total of $215,000 was the amount we settled for, a one-time shot. I can tell you now, I do litigation for a living. And by the time they deposed everybody and went through formal discovery, we'd be in $100,000 in legal fees all around the clock. So, and at the end of the day, someone still has to settle. The case doesn't go away. Or we go all the way up to the court, and by that time it's extremely expensive in motion practice. So it was a business decision that was made. So that's all I have with that. Mayor, is there anything?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up, We have Patrick Duff, Jamie, that's all I see. So you can unmute Mr. Duff.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Floor is yours.
Well, first, let me, because the gentleman, Matt, was asking the question. I think people are confused. I think Matt was confused thinking that you guys are talking about my blog when it's a blog that's talking about me and saying that I faked my cancer and saying all kinds of lovely defamatory things against me. And I can assure you, you know, I had to discuss my funeral song with my mother just a couple months ago before I went into my 10-hour surgery to have my tumor removed, that I am not faking my cancer. And it's something I would, you know, that I have to deal with as my own self. But to the fact that, you know, we're talking about some different things going back and forth. We've been doing this for a while. I just have to ask, Mayor, do you have to have a bond as the mayor, a surety bond?
I don't believe so. Sal, can you help me with that? Do I have?
The answer is no.
Okay.
Does a solicitor have to have a surety bond?
No,
Oh, you don't have to be bonded with the town either?
I have professional liability insurance, proof of which has been provided to the township. I don't have to have a bond. It's a different form of insurance.
Understood. So, and then do officers, like zoning officers and officials, such as Todd Reimel, do they have to have a bond?
Sal, do you know the answer to that?
They're employees of the township. They're not individually bonded. The only individuals I believe that are individually bonded would be someone having to do financial dealings with the township. Offhand, I don't have it committed to memory, but I believe that class of individuals would be a tax assessor or a CFO may fall within that class. But again, I don't have it committed to memory. I'm happy to do the research, Mr. President.
No,
if you'd like, and I can provide the answer, Mr. President. I can provide the answer if that's what you'd like. But again, I'm not going to go through each individual employee in the township to say, do they need it or not need it? But generally, it's employees who have some sort of financial responsibility, a CFO, a tax collector. Those are the classes. And I'm happy to provide that, Mr. President.
Yeah, and then
Thank you. Thank you, Sal. Appreciate that.
Is
No need to provide, Sal.
Is the Borough Code GIF considered a bond?
That's our insurance
So
provider.
it's your insurance. Is there any stipulations in the insurance why?
Mr. Duff, you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. All right.
Is
Go
there any
ahead.
stipulations in the insurance why you didn't go through your insurance? Because your deductible was only $75,000 for the insurance. Is there any stipulations in the insurance that caused your decision to not go through the insurance? Possibly, when you say exposure, the fact that the solicitor actually told the mayor to go trespass on the property of Dunphy, to take pictures and go well beyond his purview of being the mayor, abuse his power, intentionally inflict emotional and economic distress, harass, and do all these other things to this company that never filed a tort claim notice. The township never had. The township is claiming not only is not a tort claim notice, that there's no written demand letter from Dunphy. Yet somehow the township settled for $300,000. Now, here's the big issue with that, is that this township is settling based upon illegal advice that the solicitor gave to the mayor. And it's the solicitor and the mayor, along with the administrator that is no longer here, that signed off on that lawsuit. Right? So you have the people that were guilty of committing crimes against this, against the Dunphys, who are the ones that are paying out from the taxpayers' money. Now, don't you think that is a little bit of an issue? I mean, don't you think that
You have 30 seconds, Mr. Duff.
I mean, did the council ever vote on this payout, or was it just decided by the mayor and the council president and the solicitor?
Mr. Duff, you got less than 30 seconds. Do you want me to answer or do you want to finish?
Yes, sir. Please do.
There was a resolution. Anytime we spend money, there's a vote.
Yeah, I understood. No, that wasn't my question.
That was the question you asked.
Here's the real question. Do you think it is a problem that the people that actually committed the illegal and unethical and torturous acts against the Dunphys were the ones to negotiate the settlement that made it so there was no court papers filed, there was no tort claim notice filed, there was no normal processes that people go through? The township had a person.
All right, Mr. Duff, you got to wrap up. You've over your
Very
time, so
quickly,
finish it up.
the township last year, you said that people made trip and fall claim notices against the township because the township has deep pockets. That was your claim, right? Well, that didn't happen. Somebody actually had their leg amputated because they were in the recycling center there at the municipal property, and a recycling tray dropped on their leg and their leg had to be amputated. So that's not a trip and fall claim notice that somebody's going after the township because they have deep pockets. It's somebody who's drastically injured. And the township, it's just.
All right, Mr. Duff, you got to wrap up. It's been 6 minutes.
It's incredible to me that somebody will be able to negotiate their own settlement and pay out with taxpayers' money without going through an insurance claim, which would spark an investigation. And I'm asking that the investigation go further, not just in the Carly Lloyd events, that the council ask for an investigation of the Attorney General into the actions that happened at the Dunphy property involving the solicitor and the mayor, who are the ones who negotiated the settlement.
Thank you, Mr. Duff. Jamie, could you please? Thank you very much. We're not going to get into a tit for tat regarding a lot of that, but for the record, there was a demand letter that was submitted to the council, and I believe was provided in an Oprah request, but redacted due to attorney-client privilege. But this was not a haphazard decision. This was a deliberate decision that was made based on deliberate, meaningful, reasonable decision that was made. There was a decision. The goal was to keep it out of, once we file a tort claim notice, it triggers all sorts of insurance issues and all sorts of exposure starts to happen. And we were trying to mitigate that as early as possible and ultimately get to a resolution. So that's ultimately what happened. And, listen, the allegations in a lawsuit are allegations in the lawsuit, right? They're not fact. They're called allegations in a lawsuit. It's you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they're not fact until it's proven fact in the court. So it's all allegations. And that was the story in their light, most favorable to Dunphy's. We had our versions of the facts, and ultimately the parties settled, reasonably settled to resolve the matter. So that's where we're at. All right. Is there any other questions or comments from members of the public? I don't see any. So with that, I'll ask for a motion to close the floor.
Motion, Tom Lyon.
Second, Lynn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Our floor is now closed. Now ask for a motion to enter executive session for resolution 2022-31, authorizing executive session to discuss contract negotiations with the Delran Emergency Squad.
So moved, Tom Lyon.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, I was writing. Who motioned in second? Jamie, do you have that?
I think Tom was first.
I have
Lyon.
Tom and Marlo, right?
Great. Yep.
Correct.
All right. Jamie, could you call the roll, please?
Yeah.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Jenny,
Aye.
Ms. Pareo,
Aye.
Mr. Lyon,
Aye.
Mr. Burrell.
Aye. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. We'll now go in executive session. For members of the public, we'll be back in short order. If there's any action to be taken, it will be taken in public. Thank you very much. We'll see you shortly. If either the mayor or Jamie could reach out to the EMS and let them know. Thank you. All right, we're on the record. We're back in our public portion of our meeting. There's no action to be taken at all. So at this time, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Nice job.
Welcome again.
Welcome. Take care.